Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani with you until 11 o'clock tonight. Again, be sure to join us for the #1 Cochrane Sports Showdown. That's on after the late news at 11:35 on KDKA. In the meantime, it's just you and me, so if you want to talk about anything going on in sports, we had a lot going on today, it's 412-575-2600. It was a wonderful ceremony for Jaromir Jagr, only to have it ruined by the Penguins, who you would have thought would come out and use that momentum and all the adrenaline was in that building and turn it into a really good first period. Well, they got outshot 8-1 to start. They got better as the game went on, but still, only one goal today. And if they do miss the playoffs, when they do the autopsy, it's going to be the power play that is the big reason and cause of death. They have not been able to convert, and what's worse is they're giving up shorthanded goals, as they did again today in the waning moments of that game. So what looked like a potential win, 2 points, big 2 points, turns out to be no points, and now the Penguins remain on that treadmill trying to gain on teams, but you're not going to be doing by losing home games against teams that you had down 1-0 very late in the third period. But that's the way it went today. As they lose that game, the only offense coming from Sidney Crosby, that's it. He has 31. And some of the other names without Jake Guentzel are not producing whatsoever. And that leads to the question, what do they do with Jake Guentzel? The trade deadline is coming up. A lot of people think they're going to move him, but the question is, he's injured. He's not going to be back until after the trade deadline. Does that diminish what you can get? How much realistically can you get for a guy on an expiring contract? Or do they just keep it the way it is and just say, we're going to work on a deal to try to get him done? He'll be here next year, and we'll just continue to roll the dice with this group and see what they got left. But right now, they have issues. And the funny thing is, again, all of the talent that they have, it's not resulting in goals. They're a very good defensive team, one of the better defensive teams in the NHL this year. They've gotten relatively good, solid goaltending, and yet here it is, the offense, and specifically the power play, that has doomed them so far. So they lose today 2-1. They have 3 more games on this 4-game homestand. They got to win them all, in my opinion. When you lose games like this, or like they've done earlier in the season with games at Arizona and others, it's hard to make up for that. So we'll talk about it at 412-575-2600. We'll also get into, if you want to, give me your Jagr moment over the years, what was great, because there was a lot of good stuff going on there today. With number 68, who says he's going to remain in town. He'll be at the next game on Tuesday night, so perhaps he can suit up the way things are going, and he did suit up today. Pre-game skate, that was a little bit of a surprise, but we'll also get into, the Pirates. Henry Davis is an ongoing topic. #1 overall pick 3 years ago, and here he is, still a man without a position. Where does he play? How does he get on the field? And how does his bat respond? Bottom line is they got to get a lot of production out of that bat. If he's not going to be a catcher and he's going to be an outfielder or a DH, it's got to be the bat, or else that #1 overall pick will be looked at as a complete bust. And I'm not suggesting that now. I'm just saying that's the way it seems to be trending. He was drafted to be a catcher, and yet for some reason he caught 2 innings. That was it all of last year, knowing that that was the position of need for them at the time of the drafting of Henry Davis. Andy Rodriguez has certainly taken over that position. He's out with injury now and going to miss the whole season. What do? They have Jason DeLay on their roster. They brought in Yasmani Grandal, who's a nice veteran, but he's an older guy, and Ali Sanchez. They don't even have Henry Davis listed on the overall roster as catcher. He's going to be an outfielder, I suppose. But they got issues there, but we'll see what they do. And I got to believe they're going to still bring on some pitching in the free agent market. There's still guys out there looking for work. And the Steelers, as you know, made a lot of moves here this week, including getting rid of Mitch Trubisky. So what's next for them at the quarterback spot? You can call and air your opinions on that one as well. It's 412-575-2600. We're just getting started here till 11 o'clock. Call the show. Love to hear from you because this is your show. It's called The Sports Call. So call us at 412-575-2600. Right here are KDKA Plus, and on most nights, 93.7 The Fan. If you're driving around, you want to chat, give us a call. All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from the Penguins concerning how many players Jagr has played against over his career. He's still playing. He's 52 years old. He's playing in Kladno, a team that he actually owns. and he still looks like he can play. Like I said, he was on the ice the other day, and it looked like at least on the power play he could make a difference. So pretty amazing numbers there for number 68, and that number will never be worn again and always will be appreciated up in the rafters. And it's probably going to be the start of many of these guys eventually getting up there. In time, of course, Crosby, Malkin, I would even say Fleury, based on the response he's gotten ever since he's come back to Pittsburgh after he went to Vegas originally, and so many others who should be considered for that. So maybe that's going to be a regular occurrence at PPG Paints Arena. The other thing that has to happen is they better get things in order. A lot of people already believe they're not going to make a playoff spot this year. They're down 7 points to the last wild card, 10 points to the third place team in the division, and time is running out. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. Let's go to JB in Shadyside. Hello, JB. How are you tonight?
What's up, Pomp? How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So I want to take you back to the Ryan Reeves trade. So it was like they were playing very well at that point. They'd won like 7 in a row, and when Sullivan decided he didn't want to play Reeves anymore, and then like from that point, it just seemed like the team kind of chose Sullivan over Rutherford. I mean, they made a choice there. And then it was like Ian Cole. He didn't want to play the guys that Rutherford had obtained, and it was just like they obviously made a huge mistake doing that because you see what Rutherford is doing at Vancouver.
Well, listen, first, I think that there were a lot of reasons that went into that decision, JB, but I get what you're saying in that Jim Rutherford brought in players who he expected to play, and Mike Sullivan, for some reason, did not warm up to them and didn't play him. And I think Ryan Reeves is still a guy who has a role to play on any team, quite frankly. Same with Ian Cole, still playing in the NHL, and a very reliable defenseman. But for whatever reason, that did not suit Mike Sullivan and his style of play. So Sullivan's been very successful, don't get me wrong, but now things are heading in a different direction. And you can blame him if you want. You can also blame Ron Hextall. You can blame the ownership group for bringing everyone on and not moving from them, wanting to keep this core together. That was a calculated risk, one that they did because they also knew that this group has a loyal following and they'll sell tickets at PPG Paints Arena. But there's also a time where you got to make a hockey trade and a good one. It may not be something you want to do, but for the betterment of the franchise moving forward, you sometimes have to make it. And we haven't not seen that. They could have done that with Malkin. They could have done that with Letang over the years. They chose to keep them all and then extend them all. And so the minor league system is not producing much because they've given away a lot of draft picks. There's not much help along the way. So they're banking on this group, lifting up the rest of them. And so far, that's just not happened over the last couple of years. Let's go to Bob in Lincoln Borough. Mo, I'm sorry, in Lincoln Borough. I can't read anymore. It's too far away from me. Mo, what's going on?
Oh, how you doing, Bob? Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
But I think today's tribute was a attribute to exactly what Malkin said. If you don't play as a team, you'll never be a team. And I think that's what brought the Stanley Cup to Pittsburgh.
Well, I will also say that I thought they played a pretty good hockey game until the last couple of minutes, minus the power play. I mean, that's been the problem really all season long. They have not put together enough on their power play. They had how many chances in this game? 5, and they got 1 goal, and that was it. That was their only goal of the night. For a team that's as talented as this is, you have to score. Malkin was in the broadcast booth during the game with Josh Getzoff and Phil Bourque, and they were both talking about the power play, and then Jágr said, I think they respect one another too much. They don't. You got to just go to the net, shoot the puck. Same stuff that people around here have been saying for years. They just refuse to do it, looking for that high leverage pass that produces highlight reel goals if you make them, but most of the time it's not going to be made. So, bottom line, and they're not getting much production from anyone else, quite frankly. Their bottom 6 has been abysmal. Rickard Rakell, that's a contract they should not have extended. And Brian Russ is another guy. There are guys over there, I know they had roles and people owe them a debt of gratitude for their contributions to winning here, but at some point you have to move on for them. It's painful to do, but teams do it. in order to not only get better down the road, but to get better now. Sometimes you need a new shot of adrenaline, a new change, whether that's a head coach, whether that's a player move. And we'll see what Kyle Dubas does at the trade deadline because, quite frankly, they need help. But what do they have to offer to get the help in return? I don't know. They don't have many people they can trade right now. Jake Gensel is certainly somebody they could leverage into something, but he's also injured. And again, when you're on an existing contract that's about to expire, the team that's going to pick you up normally doesn't have to give up as much because they know that contract is expiring. So, the bottom line is they got a difficult decision to make. And if he doesn't agree to the money, sure, he loves to stay and play with Sidney Crosby, but he's also in a position of strength when it comes to getting the most that he can for one big contract of his career, and this would be it. So we'll see what goes on. That trade deadline is coming up, but the Penguins got to get it in gear if they're to do anything. But this loss was a painful one today, quite frankly, because, again, it's at home, just like it was the other day with Florida. Florida's a team that's just ripping through everybody. They beat the Penguins here, then they go out and beat Tampa 9-2. They beat Buffalo 4-0. They're rolling. They're good. They got a lot of stuff going. 412-575-2600. Let's go out to Tom in Indiana. Hello, Tom. How are you tonight?
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Good. What's going on? Thanks.
Hey, I wanted to check with you, really get your thoughts on Mason Rudolph and the whole competition between him and Kenny Pickett, and do you think this is going to happen? Is it not going to happen? I just saw an article here this evening saying that looks like maybe the Steelers are leaning towards keeping Mason or giving him a decent deal. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, thank you, Tom. First of all, I think they do want to keep him. They have exclusive negotiating window with him now. No one else can do it until free agency. That doesn't mean teams don't try, because I do think there's tampering going on in all sports. But they have the upper hand in terms of they can talk to him now and get something done if they want. And I believe they'll give him a nice contract offer. The question, if you're Mason Rudolph, as we've talked about before, is if you think you should get a shot at being a starter, do you really think you're going to get a legitimate shot? He didn't a couple of years ago. Would he do so now? The one thing that I will say is Mike Tomlin, even though he said that Kenny Pickett will go back to the top of the depth chart in the playoffs, and when he had a healthy Kenny Pickett, he chose not to start him over Mason Rudolph. He understood that Rudolph had that team going. He understood the players liked what he was doing. So that's something that could lead to a little bit of dissension within the locker room potentially. And I know Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette, our insider, we use him here on KDKA. He's on top of a lot of stuff. He says that there could be some of that going on. So you have to be very careful about how they handle that. But I would think they would want him back, open it up, legitimately compete, and whoever wins that job wins that job. They'll also bring in a veteran. They'll probably draft someone too. They need 4 quarterbacks normally in that training camp. So we'll see. But it certainly starts right here, right now with Mason Rudolph. If they can't get a deal, or if he wants to challenge and get the free agency, then he can do that. And if he does, they're going to have to need a couple of quarterbacks. Dave in Cecil Township is on the air right now. Thank you for calling the Sports Call. What's up, Dave?
And thanks for taking my call. I think the saddest part of tonight's loss, I didn't watch the game, but it's the fact that the winning goal was a shorthanded goal.
Yeah.
I think the Penguins give up far too many of those. I don't know if it's positioning. I don't know if it's focus, but they seem to give up an awful lot of shorthanded goals.
It's carelessness. It's not discipline enough. Whenever you give up, and if you didn't see the game, you didn't see how that told. It was a 2-on-1 of all things with Adrian Kempe, the guy pulling the trigger. That's the last guy you want. He's got a great shot, especially wrist shot. You can't give up a shorthanded odd man break. You got one more guy on the ice, and it seems to happen far too much with this team, 5-on-5 or otherwise. And, it really cost them tonight big time. I thought at least they're going to get a point, go to overtime at that point when they tied the game at 1. But no, they get a power play, and it's L.A. who scores on the Penguins' power play, which kind of been a microcosm of this entire season. We'll take a break. It's 412-575-2600. Call us 7 nights a week. We're here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. In the meantime, the Penguins now have fallen 5 teams behind the last wild card spot. The Devils beat the Flyers yesterday, so that was a big 2 points. They played at MetLife Stadium, the first of back-to-back outdoor games. Today, the Rangers came from behind and beat the Islanders 6-5 in overtime. So the Penguins trail the Capitals, the Islanders, the Devils, Detroit, and Tampa in that wild card race. They got to kick it in here. At this point, 30 games left in the season. That's it. And again, when you're digging out from 7 and 10 points down, respectively, in those two available spots, that means you're going to have to win 75% of the time, I would think, given what some of these other teams may do. Not a good situation for the Penguins. We'll see how they handle the rest of this week. All right, coming up tonight, we got the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. That's on at 11:35 this evening. And we will have with us Mark Caboli, Joe Starkey, and Chris Muller. We're going to get into some stuff concerning, of course, the Jake Gensel situation. Also the Steelers by releasing Mitch Trubisky, as well as Presley Harvin and Chukwuka Okorafor. I don't think any of those are a surprise given what they did and given the fact that they cost some money and they needed to get some money back, and that's going to open up some free agent opportunities potentially for the Steelers. We'll see what it means for quarterback, because they got to figure out something here before that free agency period begins in just a couple of weeks. And it's the Indy Combine coming up next week, and the Steelers will be busy trying to figure out what they're going to do with that first pick, number 20 overall, just like it was when Kenny Pickett was that pick a couple of years ago. Other than that, the Pirates back at spring training. This week will be the first of games down in Bradenton, Florida at Lecom Park, and the Pirates still don't know what to do with Henry Davis. We're going to talk about Henry Davis tonight on the Showdown because it's a big topic. He is a big bat. They need his bat, but they don't have a position for him to play necessarily unless it's outfield again, and by doing that, you may cost yourself somebody else who has been in a position to play. So lots to talk about as always. We'll do it tonight. 11:35 on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Thanks for joining me tonight. We'll do it again tomorrow night at 10:35. We hope you call us, and we hope you have a chance to watch the Sports Call. Again, it's on 7 nights a week. No excuse. We'll see you tomorrow right here at 10:35.